Rhonda M, Supreme Court Justice and 6th Judicial District Administrative Judge. Honorable Rhonda M, U.S. Magistrate Judge for the Northern District of New York. Honorable Donald F. Serio, Jr., New York State Court of Claims Judge and Acting Supreme Court Justice for Madison County. Honorable Mark G. Masler, Supreme Court Justice, Portland County. Honorable Dennis K. McDermott, former Madison County Court Judge. Honorable D. Christian Fisher, Town and Village of Casanova Judge. Honorable Patrick J. O'Sullivan, Supreme Court Justice for Madison County. And introducing the Honorable Rhonda M. Young's Madison County Court Judge.
Everyone, please. All right, well, good morning, everyone. I am Patrick O'Sullivan. I'm, as was indicated by Vanessa, I'm the Supreme Court Justice here in Madison County. And I am here this morning to welcome all of you to witness and to celebrate the swearing in of our newest elected Madison County Court Judge, the Honorable Rhonda M. Now, you know, sometimes I'm prone to hyperbole, but I will tell you that this is truly a historic election. Judge Youngs is the first woman to ever be elected in Madison County as a county court judge. In addition, this appears to be the very first time at a county level politics in New York State that a writing candidate has actually won an election. God knows I wish we saw more of this in the national political scene. Judge Youngs is the first writing candidate in Madison County to cross-endorsed by the Republican, Democratic, and Conservative parties. Now, I'm getting a bit of a compliment, all right, and I'm going to seek treatment for it. But you know, I had Judge St. Ledger came in after me, he had a packed courtroom, people all over the place. Judge Young's packed courtroom, everybody's here. I literally had my swearing-in ceremony. There was around 6 people. That's county people getting renewals on their licenses. Outside, and everyone's freezing. Like, come on, move. And so, I'm getting a bit insecure. But I've also been given very specific instructions. I like to call them the Maeve rules. I have to limit the time of my remarks because Rhonda's youngest daughter, Maeve, has Christmas toys to play with, and she doesn't want to listen to some old guy play on and on, which I'm prone to do. So I have tried my best to try and limit my remarks, but I've had to remain quiet for a year in this whole process, and you have no idea what that's like for a lawyer and a judge and for a friend. This is when it's bad. I'm not going that far back. But the story starts at 5 Mill Street, and it was in Casanova. And looking back, it was a pretty amazing group of people that were collected in one building Now, probably other people would say it was a motley crew of people, but it was a really impressive group. Rhonda was a partner with Jim Stokes, and she was an estate practice lawyer. I was practicing with Mark Boris in the litigation firm, and we had Judge Hancock, who was a justice of the Court of Appeals, the highest court in the state of New York, working with us. He had retired, and he was still doing pro bono work, practicing speeches, and he would want to bounce his speeches off of anyone who would listen. And it was always Rhonda and I who would drag him, and he really wanted you, and he really respected your perspective. And so it's kind of amazing to think that here we are before a Court of Appeals judge, and he's just sort of sharing and asking input. I always speak to myself from a neophyte, you know, and here he is looking to be open. That was my first introduction to Rhonda. I didn't know Rhonda before that. So Stuart Hancock just adored Rhonda. And she also adored Lily, who was her daughter. And so I have fond memories of that. Then we have Peter Mitchell, who's passed away. Both Judge Hancock passed away too. And Peter Mitchell, who many of you may not know, he was a legal icon in Madison County. Just an amazing man. And he said to me one day, he goes, "Look, you're always killing yourself with the surrogate court work, with these wrongful death claims. Why don't you just hand it off to Rhonda?" And I'm like, you know what? I want to keep control. I'm like a control freak, so I'm like, I just want to do my own work. I have a hard time delegating and letting the work go. And he said, you know what? I'm telling you, she's brilliant. Like, I'm going to leave my practice. I'm going to send off all my work to her. And he said, she's really brilliant, and you can trust her. And so, begrudgingly, I said one day, you know what? I have a wrongful death matter. I have to go into surrogate's court, and I'm going to hand it off to Rhonda to do it. And usually it took me like 2 months to get the process done, maybe 3 months. And within like a week, done. The work was impeccable. It was just amazing. And it was sort of like, I used to play music with a band when I was young in high school, and like someone really good comes into the band, and it was like, man, this just works. And it was kind of bizarre now looking back that this person who I didn't know, for the first time I really had a good working relationship with someone that just made, just really did everything with grace and with a certain level of professionalism that you don't see all the time. There was no cutting corners. It was done well. And I developed a real trust working with her. And I know for a fact that Peter Mitchell and Judge Hancock would be so happy to be here today. I know that, and I know they are here with us. So, the next chapter is 2015. I get elected as a county court judge. No one shut up about swearing in either. And at the suggestion of Peter Mitchell, he said, look, I'm going to tell you, you should really ask Rhonda. And I'm like, she has a full practice. She's not going to be a slut. She's brilliant. She'll be a real asset. And I'm like, all right, I'll ask her. So I'm like, Rhonda, look, I know, would you be interested in working with me and being my court attorney? And she thought about it, and I think she spoke to Jim and came back and she said, you know what, I want to do it. And so, and that chapter began. And I will tell you that the past 7 years of my life working together has been an absolute pleasure. And I couldn't say anything at my swearing in last time because Rhonda was going to be fine. But I also want to acknowledge that Linda Mulford, poor Linda, had two kind of books coming in, and she had to mold us and tell us how the courts operate and what they do. I mean, I knew what happened in the court, spent 30 years doing that. But how the machinations and everything, I mean, we have so much to defend. And then Mullane, Birmingham, for the past year and a half, has been secretary for us and assisting us with the Supreme Court. And it's just been an absolute joy. I hope it was for them. It was for me. I tend to be a person that stays in the moment, and I'm kind of like oblivious to everything. I just hyper-focus on the moment. And so they're always like, Judge, you got to do this, you got to get that done, you got to do, you know. And Ron was always like, yeah, do research, and it was just amazing. It was just I'm really, really going to miss, and I miss Linda, and I'm going to miss Mullane. And it was a wonderful time period, and a new chapter started. I know you all know this, but she's brilliant. Linda will tell you, the real brains of the office. That's Rhonda. She's hardworking. She's an astute researcher, and I am absolutely envious of her reading, her writing skills, her legal writing skills. They're like, and I will say this, and I'm not bragging, but judges are always concerned about being overturned and 17 years including town and village justice, I've never had to put for any written decision, I've never been overturned. All right, that's a pretty big deal. Now I've jinxed myself because all judges are all like, it's time. But hold on. Now, this is the lawyer in me. I was reversed once. And it was because I sat on that bench and I had no written decision for me. And I had to make a decision right then and there, and I'm still convinced to this day. And I was correcting my decision. But Justice Fitzgerald, I believe, wrote the decision that reversed me. I think it was your So, the one time I get reversed, on me. I do know this. Judge St. Ledger would have loved to have been, but he is flying over the Atlantic somewhere right now, coming back from Prague, Spain. I don't know where the world traveler is. But he did want to say congratulations and wish you good day. And so I just wanted to mention you. So I talked to you about her legal skills. But what's most impressive, and what I think we most bonded with, was that Judge Young's is all about family. And I think the race itself was self-evident of Jim is an accomplished attorney in himself, and he was out there working the rooms and doing everything and being at places and just being an advocate. I saw Mr. and Mrs. Cochran out there at home sitting in beach chairs, handing out flyers, and again, all about family. And then you had Saoirse and Meg, who I know how difficult it is when you are in a judicial race. That's the hardest part, is being away from the kids. And they were just wonderful. And I have just a story to tell you about Saoirse, and it's a true story. I know I'm going long, maybe, I'm sorry. So Saoirse, we'll be here. She's in preschool. I'm bad with time, like years, it just always seems like it's yesterday. But Saoirse was in preschool, I know that for a fact. And she's in the office, and I hear her knock on the door, and she comes in, and Rhonda was very good. I started to keep calling Rhonda, but I'll get used to it. But Rhonda was really good about letting her be for herself, like speak for herself. And so here, Saoirse walks in, and she has a piece of paper, and she comes up, and it's a drawing, clearly of a judge on a bench. Right? And I can tell at a young age, wow, this is really good. So of course I'm like, oh, this is wonderful, Saoirse. And I'm like, you know, we've got to figure out a place to hang this. And so we're looking all around, and I have scotch tape. Please make I'm sorry. Look at the scotch tape. And so we tape it up, and we like take a step back. I'm like, looks good, doesn't it? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna really, you know, I would really appreciate that. And I said, you know, I really appreciate you drawing me. She goes, it's not you. This is my mom. Already I'm thinking to myself, what the heck is Jim and Rhonda talking about? It's kind of cool. Well, Saoirse, the picture came true. And you should probably start showing pictures of your mom on the court. So I am going to close now. And I really want to say this, and it's difficult, but judges are not permitted by law, ethics rules, to participate in the political process. And I could not advocate for Rhonda. And it was extremely difficult. For the past 7 years, we've been a team together. And to have to remain silent is a feeling of powerlessness. And I felt a feeling like, you know what, she was there for me, I can't be there for her. And it was a horrible feeling. It's a very similar feeling when you hear a case and you're the judge of the law, right? You sit there, but you have the jury, and they're the judges of the facts. And it is up to that jury to decide what's going to happen. And you know, you've heard the evidence too. We have opinions and everything else. We know the law, but you have to have faith that the jury is going to reach a fair verdict and decision. And in some respects, it was very much like that. That's what we had here. We had the people of Madison County have to make a decision, and in my humble opinion, they got it right. And they rendered an unequivocal, clear verdict and elected the Honorable Rhonda M as their county court judge. So at this time, I have the honor of calling up the Honorable Elizabeth A. Garry. This is a big deal. This is the Presiding Justice of the Appellate Division, 3rd Department. She has a lot of humility, and she wouldn't. You don't get many presiding justices coming to these types of affairs, and I really want to thank you for that. And she's going to say a few words, and then she's going to be swearing in Judge Evans. So, Justice.
I am so happy to be here to celebrate with all of you and with the Young's family and my colleagues who have actually traveled, many of them quite some distance as well. So it's a real showing of respect that they have come to be here to celebrate this occasion. From Broome County, my colleagues and Molly Reynolds Fitzgerald and our administrative judge, Jean Warren. We have a federal bench here with Judge Wiley Danks. And we know, of course you all know Don Serio, who doesn't need any introduction. But Mark Massler came from Portland this morning. We all know this guy who served this county so well and with such distinction. Yeah, not so far to travel. And quick story. I didn't really enjoy New Year's Eve or New Year's Day and the celebration that much. And you know, it was sort of overshadowed by Christmas and all that Christmas brings, you know, with the tree and the presents and all that stuff. And New Year's, you know, sometimes you might wear a silly hat and there's some music and stuff, but it wasn't as much fun. And you know, then as I got older, there was a little too much about the drinking, I think, and that sort of thing. So, you know, but now, at this point in my life, I celebrate New Year's in this remarkable way that we are all celebrating together. Because I get to go to these events where people are starting out on a brand new path. You know, people are taking on jobs as judges and as other elected officials, and they're starting with all the hope and the optimism that brings. And here in Madison County, I gotta say, we have a lot of reason for a lot of hope and optimism, because I have no doubt, there is no doubt, that Madison County will be extremely well served by your new county judge, Rhonda M. So many good reasons to celebrate, and Happy New Year's all around. And Rhonda, I am going to call you by your first name, because briefly we get the opportunity to continue doing that before she loses her first name and just becomes Judge Young's all the time. So, Rhonda, as you know, she's been preparing for this for years. And we all know she has the right stuff. She's got the skills. She's got the commitment. She's got the devotion to service and devotion to the law and the right judicial temperament. That most precious of things, a critical piece. She has fully earned this role. Years of legal practice, and some of this you've heard from Judge O'Sullivan, so bear with me, but it bears stating a remarkably diverse field of law that she has practiced in. And then capped off with what can only be described as a very challenging campaign. It's fitting to speak a little bit about her background, and though many of you, of course, know. After growing up in Camden, Rhonda went to SUNY Albany, where she played Division I field hockey. There's the competitive spirit. Division I field hockey. And she then went on, she stayed in Albany and graduated from Albany Law School in 2007. She told me, as you've heard, that she had the great fortune of meeting the Honorable Stewart Campbell. And so began her legal work in litigation, first as a student intern and then in employment following her graduation at Hancock Esterbrooke. She worked in the litigation group of that prestigious firm, where we know her husband Jim remains employed. After a couple of years, she moved to begin her work in Casanova with several of the county's well-known and well-regarded lawyers at, as I understand it, the profession was Mitchell, Morris, and Stokes, and then later Mitchell, Morris, Stokes, and O'Sullivan, and then Stokes and Young, and throughout her private practice, she built her legal experience across the broad array of legal subjects. And in 2016, as we know, she began really, I can't think of better training really for the role she's about to hold, because she began working, as we know, as the law clerk for Judge O'Sullivan. Judge O'Sullivan, it's really clear that your loss is Madison County's gain. But I just, you know, as I was thinking about coming here, I thought, what a proud day. I mean, what a remarkable thing to be able to really witness somebody going from being your assistant to being your colleague. And wonderful for you, really wonderful. I first came to know Rhonda Youngs in her leadership roles in the County Bar Association, where she was very proactive and inspiring as she worked her way up through the various leadership roles Many of you have, are here this morning because you helped her in the recent campaign. And before I call her up for the oath, I must mention some aspects of that unusual campaign, as it is the final part of how much she has earned her new role. What campaign? Hey, you know? It said there are stories to be told, I'm sure, at the reception and maybe after. The Madison County Board of Elections report shows 17,212 votes, far more than any other candidate seeking any other position in the county in this election cycle. 17,212 votes was what was officially reported. And Rhonda, what that means is that you were highly successful in both educating people, because it was a right-in campaign, and in gaining full bipartisan support across the county, as we heard, endorsed by multiple parties and so on. In this, if you're saying that that's not just a major achievement, but it's one very fitting for a judge who is about to step into a role that is, to be somebody who will serve impartially and without any regard for politics. Congratulations. We know, on a very serious note, we all know that a political campaign can be terrible and daunting. And for the candidate and their family, it's a major sacrifice. And there are always, in every milestone, there are always awful parts. But there are high points too, which I hope and trust that you will bring with you into this office, which will make you a better judge. Having met all those people across the entire county, may it always help you to remember how sacred and important this role is. This is a community trust that you will hold. To the best of your ability, always, so help you God. And on that note, I'm going to ask you to please come forward with your family for the oath of office. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of County Judge
of the office of County Judge
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Garry, for those beautiful words, and Ms. Sullivan, and everyone here today, here to help us celebrate this very important milestone for our county. This is really a full circle moment for me, because it was here in this very courtroom
years ago that I first really got the call to run for office. I was sitting right over there, where my friend Casey's sitting right now. And I was sitting with my husband Jim, and I had Saoirse on our lap, and we were here for the swearing-in ceremony of my new fellow county judge, Michael St. Ledger. Many of you may have been here at that time too. Saoirse was on my lap, which was limited seating because I was 5 months pregnant with Maeve. So, but as all the judges walked into the courtroom wearing their robes, I held Saoirse, and she caught the eye of Justice Garry, and Justice waved to her. And Justice Garry very kindly smiled back and acknowledged her. And Saoirse looked up at me and said, "Mommy, why is there only one girl up there?" And I was a little nervous because it was a solemn event. So I was trying to get my 5-year-old, make sure she was quiet. And you know, that comment from my own daughter really hit me hard. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to have to tell her that Madison County had never elected a female judge, and that, you know, statewide, females are underrepresented in our judiciary. So I kept her quiet. I just said, you know, it's very hard to run for judge, and now we know that firsthand. Right? And she looked up at me in response and said, "More mommies should be judges." And I, of course, agreed. So Jim and I that night, we were home and we really talked about it, and we agreed that the next vacancy that opened for a judge, I would run for it. We as a family would take on that challenge. I never thought that opportunity would come so quickly. Here we are, 3 years later. And, you know, but here we are, and I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, a daughter, and now I'm a judge. So I'm so thrilled for everything that Madison County has done to support me in that, in all of those roles that I hold now. And of course, this was a very unique campaign, as we've talked about, and I really faced an insurmountable challenge. I had to get people to be able to spell my name correctly and put it in the proper place on their ballot. So many people thought, you know, that this really could not be done. So my goal was to meet with as many voters as possible, because it was their decision to make. Not just a small number in leadership, not the other judges, not the attorneys. It was all of Madison County's decision to make. Every house I went to, which was many, I asked for their help. I asked them that if you're going to vote for me, please tell your family and friends. Share my flyer with them. And Madison County responded in quite a big way. Other elected officials who believed in this campaign came out in support of me. Sheriff Hood, County Clerk Mike Kevel, all of our many of our board of supervisors here, just so many of the wonderful people who do great work here in Madison County every day. And I heard about, on the campaign trail, about how much that mattered to everybody here. Numerous letters to the editor were written, and now normally letters to the editor, you've got to ask somebody to write those on your behalf. This was people who were just on their own submitting these letters with little or no input from me. I would appear at meet and greet events, and every time we had one in Oneida, Georgetown, and DeRidder, we always had great crowds, and they were all very enthusiastic. How can I help? They all took signs, they made phone calls, they wrote postcards for me. And one supporter in Georgetown raised her hand and said, you know, you should be interviewed by the TV news. You should be on the news. People need to know about this. And I said, well, hey, call up the news and tell them you want to hear about this. This is what you want to hear on your news. Well, sure enough, she called Channel 9 News the next day, and I was being interviewed by a reporter within the week. So this is really Madison County's win. I know that I played a part in this, but I really owe it all to the enthusiasm and the support that I got from everyday citizens who cared enough about the integrity of our court system and who wanted somebody with the experience and qualifications to really get to work on behalf of the people. So this was a huge grassroots effort, and I am very happy to report that I heard from several people who actually sat in and watched some of the final canvassing of the vote with the Board of Elections, that Madison County has excellent penmanship. But in my early days of coming to work in court, after Judge Sullivan asked me kindly to serve with him and to help him, I started to see the pressure of making the right decisions for the individuals and for the families who appear in our court. And I found a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson that I have framed and put in my office, and it's kind of my mantra, that once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. When there was a tough decision to be made, and Judge Sullivan has so expertly taught me, and I watched him firsthand on how to make those tough decisions, I would think of that quote, that yes, this is a tough decision, maybe between a custody, between a mother and a father, but the universe is going to somehow make this all work out. This is going to work out. And I really believe that for this judgeship, I have made the decision to run years ago. And the universe really conspired to make it happen in bigger ways than I ever imagined. So I really believe that this writing campaign was bigger and better than anything I could have imagined. Being endorsed by the conservative, the Republican, and the Democrat committees was bigger and better than I could have imagined. And my prayer is that the relationships that were formed, fostered during this campaign continue to grow and have ripple effects throughout our county. And I really believe that we have great leadership here doing wonderful work on behalf of all of the residents of Madison County. So I thank you all so much. There's many people I have to thank, obviously, for this huge endeavor that we've been in. And first and foremost, though, this would all not be possible without the support of my husband, Jim Young. Jim and I met as summer associates at Hancock Estabrook, and I do not know the practice of law without him, and I'm very glad for that, because you make it easy and better every day. And I will always remember the night we did a lot of door to door, and we'd come home on a Saturday night. We'd been going all day, 6 hours at least, and came home. We were exhausted, and I was home first, and then he came home a little bit later, and he just came in and he looked and said, "I'm so glad we're doing this." I was like, all right. And at that moment, I really let go of any guilt that I had for putting our family through this whole process. So I thank you for that. My daughters, Sarah and May, who are 8 years old and 2.5 now, soon to be 3. And for a short time, they really sacrificed their time with me, of course, and they were very happy that things were getting back to normal. And you really do inspire me every day to serve our family and to serve others. And Stephanie Weaver is here too, our girl Zanny. She really... our whole family And they were very dedicated to helping me get the signs out, poll watching, and of course they were teachers for many years, 30 plus years in the Camden School District. And they both immediately got on board and got all of their teacher friends, many who live here in Madison County, all worked up and riled up and enthused to help us with this process, so thank you. I remember coming home one day, it was a frustrating lunch meeting, and my dad and mom were in my house, and I was kind of complaining. I really disliked having to talk about myself constantly, and I didn't know if these political people would like me. And so I sat down with my father, I was talking to my father about this, and he said, as only a father can, Rhonda, what's not to like? But that really helped me stay grounded, and you also did it for me on a daily basis, so I thank you. And my in-laws are here, Sue and Nelson Lewis. They were at our house every weekend to help us care for the girls. All the children, really. My niece and nephew would come so that we could go door to door. And one person at one of the meetings asked me if I was losing a lot of weight from all the walking around. And I said, no, unfortunately, my mother-in-law is a wonderful cook. And she's at my house baking wonderful treats. So unfortunately, I may have been doing a lot of stress today. So thank you very much. My siblings were definitely some of my best surrogates on the campaign trail. My brother Toby and his wife Autumn, my brother Tyler and his husband James. You could whip through a door-to-door list faster than anybody. In a matter of hours, you could have all of Chittenango covered. Tom Cotton was that. And growing up, I must have done something right, because when I needed them, they were here as fast as their cars could drive them. Toby and Autumn coming from Buffalo, and Tyler and James coming from home. Thank you very much. She definitely encourages me every day to keep moving forward and do so with a positive attitude, glass half full at all times. And she gave me a necklace when I graduated law school that I wore frequently on the campaign trail. And it says, well-behaved women rarely make history. So thank you. Such a role model for me, and really has served as a model for how to be a good, kind, fair judge, and certainly how to run a successful campaign. And it was definitely our friendship and your belief in my abilities that has brought me to this moment today. So thank you very much. To all the judges here today, it has been an honor to get to know you and to learn from you. And as they said, this is really the ultimate sign of respect, that they are here to support Madison County, to support me in taking on this new, very important position. And there are two people who could not be here today that were also instrumental in our campaign. That was retired Madison County Judge Humphreys and former Madison County District Attorney Neil Rose, and I've spoken with both of them, and I will definitely take their advice with me to the bench. But there was, again, I apologize, there's so many people, I know I'm going to miss people, but I have to thank Bijoy Data, my campaign manager. When we first met for the write-in campaign in Casmillia, I looked at you and I said, are you ready to win your first write-in campaign? And are you ready to represent a plan endorsed by all the political parties? Thankfully, he said yes. So, to make sure I kept my expectations low. But you really guided us through this entire process, and I couldn't have done that without your expertise. And of course, Todd Rouse, Liz Moran, and Chris Kendall, they're all here today, and they are the 3 chairs of the political parties here in Madison County, and I'm really sure that each of you heard a lot of interesting opinions, let's put it that way, about supporting my write-in candidacy. And you really put aside politics. You looked at my qualifications, my experience, and you did what you believed was in the best interest of Madison County. It was an unprecedented decision of integrity by each of you. And as I heard on the campaign trail, so many voters were really thrilled to see that the parties could really come together and agree on something. So I appreciate all of your support, and really all of the committees that you oversee, all of those committee members were instrumental in making this a successful campaign. So thank you very much. I can't mention everybody, unfortunately, we do have to eat today at some point, but I have to mention just a few call-outs to the 3 L's. That's what my husband and I called you. You didn't know we called you that, but we did. Lisa Liddell, my treasurer, is here. Linda Mulford is here, and Lucy and Fracco is here. We called them the 3 L's, and they were really my holy trinity. They were my go-to people. And not a day went by where I didn't talk to one of them. And near the end of September, I got very ill, and I was like stuck in bed for a whole week. And I couldn't do anything, and I was very concerned. I was missing all this door-to-door time. I was very upset. And my husband came in and he was like, all right, and well, this also just happened to be the week that the signs got delivered. So I was really anxious to get those out. My husband comes in and tells me, Lou's coming over, he's getting the signs. Lisa's working with B-Joy on the next mailer, and Linda's out door-to-door already. So don't worry about it, Rhonda. The 3 L's have got you covered, so thank you. There was another L, Lisa Berlini-Roser. We go back to college. We were co-captains on our field hockey team together, and she was always available. She is a marketing whiz, so that was extremely needed for this campaign where we were educated about how to do a write-in vote. We had Pete Spalding. I think Pete's here today. Pete Spalding's here, our big sign crew, part of our big sign crew. And one of the first people I called when I wanted to run, and he told me, go for it. Go for it.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Donna Ismail is here. The Har family is here. The Krumzicks are here. The Foleys are here. So many people. The cops. I apologize. I can't get to everybody. George Puzzi never stopped making calls on my behalf and advocating for me. And I really cannot thank you enough. Again, it was that truly grassroots team effort. So thank you very much. My mentors, my colleagues here in Madison County, especially our local judges here, Judge Sullivan, Judge Serio, Judge Durbett, of course, Judge Shaitlett, who could not be here with us today. I thank you all for your support and your mentorship throughout my career. Jim Stokes is here, and he and Mark Morris were really instrumental in a huge impact on how I got here today. Some of my Hancock Estabrook colleagues are here, and especially, John Murad, John Powers, Alan Pierce, Marion Hancock-Fish, they could not be here with us today. Your mentorship really set me on this path to be here today as well. I have to thank my new chamber staff. I am thrilled to be working with you, Elaine Birmingham and Gemma Rossi. Thank you for joining me on this new venture. And really all of the members of Madison County Courthouse, you make this really all possible. And in closing, I have to thank the people of Madison County. Meeting you on your doorsteps and asking for your vote has really been the most rewarding experience of my entire career. Your outpouring of love and support has helped me get through every day, even no matter what was thrown at me. You delivered this historic election to Madison County. And I'm beyond proud to be your first female